Nobody informs you how bizarre it becomes at the end. The last waking does not resemble happiness. It does not appear to be peaceful, and it doesn't even feel like the awakening you expected. It's as if your entire system is tugging you somewhere you can't articulate, nor forward, nor upwards, but inner, something beyond words. You're not glowing. You can float. You disconnect from roles, from narratives, from everything you expected to become. It is not depression. It is not confusion. It is the silent loss of identity. This is the ultimate stage of being genuine. But here's the issue. Nobody around you understands, since the indicators do not make sense. That is delicate art, which is frequently disregarded as nothing. However, if you're feeling them, your soul is indicating that you have crossed the boundary. You are no longer at the beginning. You're done. This video shows the 8 oddest, least mentioned signals that your last awakening has begun. Nobody talks about these kinds of indications since they don't appear to be spiritual. But they are. These are not indications of collapse, but rather evidence of inward fulfillment. And frequently, one of these indications has been silently manifesting in your life. You are not falling apart. You are breaking through. Let me begin. For the most of your voyage, your inner voice served as your compass. You trusted it. You polished it. It directed your decisions. They nudged you out of poisonous settings and whispered the truth when you were surrounded by falsehoods. But suddenly something's changed. That voice seems like it's gone. Or worse, it still talks, but it sounds strange, faint, as if it no longer belongs to you. This is one of the oddest psychological experiences during the final awakening. You begin to feel divorced from your own sense of yourself, not in a damaging or clinical manner, but in a transcending one. You haven't lost your sense of intuition. It's that your intuition has lost its voice since your identity structure, via which it used to communicate, has crumbled. You begin to see that much of what you believed was intuition was actually a combination of trauma, memory, emotional patterns, and survival intelligence. It was genuine, yes, but it was filtered. Your name, worries, dreams, and inner child were all printed on it. But now you feel as if you're functioning from a deeper level, beneath thoughts, emotions, and language. It is not quiet, it's presence. And presence does not communicate in words. It moves. You find yourself making decisions without considering things through. You do not analyze. You don't weigh your alternatives. You just behave in perfect accord, only to find later that it was exactly what was required. You're no longer following signs. You are the sign. This can be really disconcerting at first. The lack of inner dialogue makes you feel as if something is missing. But it isn't. This is what has been removed. This frees you. Chatter, self-doubt, and the questioner's insight. The question. You have reached the point where your intuition no longer talks because your entire self has become intuitive. When that happens, the need for inner narration disappears. There is nothing to explain. You're no longer following the voice. You're the consciousness. It comes from where? You're sitting in your room, surrounded by the things you've always enjoyed. A light that you can book. Years ago, a snapshot made you grin. Maybe your favorite sweater is hanging on the chair. Nevertheless, everything feels odd. It's as if someone altered the energy in your life while you looked. These items are still officially yours, but emotionally they feel remote. No connection. They appear to be from a previous iteration of you. This is one of the most quietly frightening signals of the final awakening. Your emotional attachment to familiar physical items vanishes without notice. It's not because you suddenly detest them. It is because the energetic function they formerly performed in your identity has been extinguished. We don't know how much our sense of ourselves is based on our actual environment. A monk transforms into a ritual. A book becomes a belief system. A wall color may evoke a specific emotion. However, In Final Awakening, your internal energy system evolves so quickly that the outward framework begins to disintegrate. And it includes your emotional attachment to material possessions. You may stroll through your home and feel like a visitor. You may pick up an object you once treasured and feel nothing. There's no warmth or nostalgia, only a hazy memory that it once meant something. Some items may even begin to cause silent anguish or pain, not because they are evil, but because they symbolize an emotional version of yourself that is fading. And that is exactly what is occurring. Your subconscious identity attachments are being removed, object by object, without fanfare. This is not minimalism. It's an energetic shedding. Your soul is clearing up your emotional environment by removing erroneous connections to establish. You may wish to give half of your stuff, feel trapped by emotional objects, or require your area to be nearly bare. And that is not unusual. It's sacred because when your spirit no longer requires stuff to know who it is, you may finally be free of anchors. It begins as a slight alteration. You go past a mirror and, rather than gazing, you look aside, not because of insecurity or vanity, but because something about your own reflection is unnerving, familiar but alien, recognizable but remote. It's like seeing a costume you used to wear but no longer identify with. When your connection with your reflection begins to deteriorate, it is one of the most unsettling indicators of final awakening. Mirrors become uncomfortable not because of your appearance, but because of what you can no longer see. The person you have identified with, the one linked to the face. During this period, posture and microexpressions are no longer the most important aspects of your existence. Your spiritual and bodily identities start to disconnect. You have spent your entire life seeing your face and calling it mine. However, in Final Awakening, the Watcher within you grows so powerful, quiet, and vast that your face becomes meaningless. It is not denial, it is transcendence. You may cease making eye contact with yourself in the mirror, or you may gaze for an extended period of time, feeling as if you're seeking for yourself. You may even notice a little change in your appearance, not physically but spiritually. They no longer bear the same charge. There is no tail in your eyes now, only space. This may be unpleasant, even spooky, especially when society teaches us to base our identity on looks. However, when waking progresses, your body no longer serves as your home. Instead, your awareness does, and your face becomes something you wear rather than something you are. Eventually, this face softens. You start to perceive the body as an instrument rather than a definition. However, during the liminal period, the mirror shows something you're still letting go of, a version of yourself that is being relinquished. You aren't avoiding your reflection. You are outgrowing it. It begins quietly. When asked your age, you pause. You go blank when attempting to recall your birth date. You have trouble remembering what you do for a livelihood, not because your memory is terrible, but because your identity file is being cleansed. This is one of the most perplexing but potent signals of the final awakening. You begin to lose mental access to formerly crucial biographical information, not because they are irrelevant, but because they no longer define you. During this stage, your soul begins to release identities. Decluttering your work, title, education, background, interests, and even your last name may make them feel less significant. You may say, "I'm not sure what I do anymore," or "I feel like I'm becoming anonymous." And that is true. Your egoic signature is disappearing. The mental construct, "summon me," the identity you've cultivated over decades, is being replaced with a deeper understanding. This does not make you puzzled. It makes it evident that you are still functioning. You'll still speak. However, there is a subtle emptiness beneath your statements, as if you are no longer pretending to be someone. The oddest part, you feel lighter. You no longer need to convey your tale. You no longer need a past. You understand that the person you were never truly was. Only a collection of labels are currently being removed. Final awakening isn't about remembering more. It is about forgetting everything. You're not. You sit alone in your room. No phone, no music, just quiet. And then it strikes you with a surge of emotion, excitement, anguish, or memories you hadn't processed. There's no evident trigger, just quiet, opening something hidden at the last waking. Silence becomes a mirror. For the first time, you cannot employ diversions to remain numb. Your system's emotional backlog, which has been stored since childhood, begins to appear, but not as panic, collapse, or truth. Pure sense truth. This is why you may decide to avoid quiet. Not because it is dull, but because it is true. And honesty without filters is overpowering. In quiet, your breath slows and your spirit begins to speak. And sentiments, not words. You may cry in quiet, not understanding why. You may grin while feeling old pain unravel beneath it. You are not broken. You're not overly emotional. You can now hear yourself clearly, and that is a lot. However, the body possesses wisdom. It simply expresses what you're ready to feel. The remainder of the group waits patiently. Final awakening marks the end of internal cacophony and the start of true feeling. Silent, holy, and unexplained. Powerful. You're speaking with someone, whether it's a friend, a co-worker, or perhaps someone you love. And halfway through, something within you checks out. You're still present and listening, but your soul withdraws. You no longer feel linked to the words, the spirit, or even the present time. And you don't understand why. This does not imply you are chilly. It indicates that you've grown particularly sensitive to energy alignment and final awakening. Even casual chat becomes sacrosanct. Your system will no longer tolerate unnecessary noise, false positive, or concealed discomfort. It's not a judgment. It is resonance awareness. When your energy is depleted, your body notices and begins to expel it before you can explain why. This might manifest as zoning out, losing attention, or having the desire to leave even when it is socially incorrect. You may begin to avoid extended calls and social activities, not because you are antisocial, but because your field is recalibrating and everything that takes you away from the truth becomes energetically expensive. Strangely, you begin to cherish absence above presence. You learn that quiet is not empty. It is clarity. Clarity is now your most valuable currency. Final awakening causes you to walk away, not to flee, but to protect something wholly within you that no longer wishes to be spent on worthless words. There comes a point where you realize you don't feel anything. Not grief, not joy, not emptiness, just a strange neutrality that lingers in your chest like a gentle, uncaring fog. It does not worry you, nor does it inspire you. This is the 0 point mood, a strange and holy space when your emotions halt and everything feels equally distant and close. You are not numbing out. You are balancing polarity. After years of alternating between emotional highs and lows, the final awakening brings this moment of calm. It feels odd because your nervous system does not recognize it. No adrenaline, no thrill. Just being silent at this phase. Things occur around you, but not to you. You may have a good day, yet feel nothing. An awful day, and I still don't feel anything. But this is not repression. It's finished. You no longer seek emotional highs to validate your existence. That's what makes this so unusual. You may live your life without having to always feel it. This is the place where the soul starts to rest. When you stop seeking sensations and becoming the calm that lies beyond them. It is not a destination, but rather confirmation that the tale of suffering is finally coming to a conclusion. There's an unsettling feeling inside you that something significant is going to happen. You wake up feeling attentive and aware, as if something is about to happen. But nothing changes from day to day. Nonetheless, the feeling persisted. This is one of the most mysterious and conclusive markers of spiritual fulfillment. Energetic preparation for embodiment. Your system is no longer prepared for an external shift. It is preparing for a threshold event within you. You do not know what. You don't know when, but your spirit is making space. You may see yourself emptying your calendar, cleaning your room, relaxing more, and saying no more frequently. Not because you're exhausted, but because you're intuitively creating place for something you can't name yet. And there is the bizarre part. Nothing occurs. It feels like something has already happened. This preparatory energy indicates that your old framework is being dissolved, and your body is ready for a form of clarity that cannot be obtained through the intellect. It occurs by embodiment, profound, abrupt realization, and absolute spiritual integration, rather than bursts of insight. You are not waiting for change. You are the change. Silently assemble. When the time comes, you won't need to prepare anymore. You will just know and remember. This emotion was never about anticipation. It was an alignment. Loading. You will not realize you are at your final waking until it begins. And by the time it sinks in, you're done trying to categorize it. That is the contradiction. The more complete you are, the less you need to define your trip. The string signs are not mistakes. Their echoes indicate that the mechanisms you formerly relied on to be someone are failing for good cause. Because the real you does not need to be built, just unveiled. You are not disintegrating. You are disarming. Masks, tails, and emotional armor. They all fade away, not in drama, but in peaceful knowledge. In that quiet, something fresh breathes its first breath. The ultimate awakening does not provide a prize. It returns you to a situation in which no proof is required. Simply raise. So if you're feeling odd, disoriented, or detached recently, let it be. Because just maybe it isn't perplexity, but fulfillment. And if this speaks to your soul, subscribe to Bloom. The next chapter begins when the cacophony stops.